What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I'm going to be looking at two different deck lists for Rowlet Exeggutor Tag Team in the expanded format. Basically the deck that won Richmond Regionals, but we've had 9 cards banned since then and an entire new set become legal for both standard and expanded formats. So the deck is going to change up a bit, and I have two different lists to show you guys today. But before we hop into that, I just want to shout out my sponsors, PotownStore.com. You can use code Celio there for 5% off, and they specialize in emailed PTCGO codes. You can find just about any PTCGO stuff you need there. And also FlipsideGaming.com. Use code Celio, all caps, for 10% off of any order $10 or more. So we're going to be looking at everyone's favorite egg and bird duo here, and coincidentally we also have a line of birds in the deck. So this list is very similar to JW Craywall's winning list from Richmond. The only card in the deck that has been banned since is Marshadow Let Loose, and that's fine. I think the Let Loose was in here just to kind of abuse the power that most other decks were abusing. It wasn't very critical to the deck strategy, so I'm perfectly fine with not having Let Loose. There were a bunch of Egg Rowlet decks that did not play Let Loose at Richmond and also did well, so I don't think it was pertinent to the deck whatsoever. If you aren't familiar with this archetype, maybe you're new to expanded format, or you just took a break and you didn't pay attention to Richmond at all, we're looking at Rowlet and Alolan Exeggutor Tag Team as our main Pokemon here. So the Super Growth attack is free. Search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your grass Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. If that Pokemon is now stage 1, search your deck for a stage 2 that evolves from it and put it onto that Pokemon. So this gets around evolution rules. You can do it on the first turn that the card is down. The Pokemon that we're looking to evolve are both of these Vileplumes, depending on the matchup. So we have 4 Oddish with Stun Spore, and then we have 3 Gloom with Irresistible Aroma, and also 1 with the Confusion. I believe this is the split that JW played, and I just kind of tossed it into my deck, keeping the same split. And then the 2 different Vileplumes. So we'll look at this one first. This one's been around since 2015. It came out in Ancient Origins, and it's been very, very thriving in several different metas and formats. So it's all about its ability, Irritating Pollen. Each player can't play any item cards from his or her hand. So this usually means that the deck playing the Vileplume is very low on items, and you are hoping to hit into a lot of decks that are playing a lot of items and almost rely on those items to go through their deck and set up and function throughout the game. So Irritating Pollen can be really, really good to kind of constrict your opponent into only playing supporters and stadiums and energy in Pokemon. Because items can really make up a huge part of decks. And so with the Super Growth, you can get out the Vileplume on your first turn if you're going second, or on your second turn if you're going first, since you can't attack going first. And then the other Vileplume we're looking at is a bit newer. It's from Burning Shadows. It has the ability Disgusting Pollen. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's basic Pokemon can't attack. This was seen in standard format a good bit in stall decks, since big basics were popular in standard and very good in standard, and this can just completely shut down a deck if they don't have a stage 1 or stage 2 attacker. They can't shut down the Disgusting Pollen ability, or they don't have a Stealthy Hood. So Disgusting Pollen, this one gets a lot of questions. It's really very simple if you read the card and just internalize what it means for a moment. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's basic Pokemon can't attack. So this ability is putting an effect on your opponent's basic Pokemon, saying that it cannot attack. So something like Keldeo-GX, it does 110, and it says this attack's damage is not affected by any effects on the defending Pokemon. that does not allow Vileplume, it does not allow Keldeo's damage to hit Vileplume, because that attack cannot even be announced, since Disgusting Pollen does not allow your opponent's basic Pokemon to attack. But if you have Stealthy Hood, which reads that the Pokemon this card is attached to is not affected by any of your opponent's Pokemon's abilities, Disgusting Pollen would no longer affect the Pokemon with Stealthy Hood, and then you can swing through. So if your opponent's playing an all-basic deck, or a deck that you think is all-basic, or none of their evolution Pokemon can attack, then you want to get Disgusting Pollen into play. And then use Virizion-GX's Breeze Away GX. Put any number of your Pokemon in play and all cards attached to them into your hand. So you just breeze away everything but your Vileplume into your hand. And then you can just slowly attack, attach energy, and then eventually attack with 60 a turn. Or you could just draw a pass until your opponent decks out. So either is an option, but since you do have 8 grass energy, you could just attach to your Vileplume 3 times and then just swing 60 every turn until you've won the game. Like I said, against decks where this is not your strategy, then you're going to want to get out Vileplume Irritating Pollen. And so from there, if you're not using the Disgusting Pollen to win the game, since your opponent can't attack, then you're going to be attacking with Rowlet and Alolan Exeggutor Tag Team GX. The Calming Hurricane attack does 150, heal 30 damage from this Pokemon. It's very simple, but if you are locking your opponent out of the game in different ways, then 150 heal 30 is actually just fine. It's actually good enough to win a regionals because it did. Then the thin support line of Pidgeotto, just a 1-1. For Airmail, just a little extra draw and digging through your deck. And like I said, the Virizion is there for Breeze Away GX. So, like I said, Calming Hurricane is kind of underwhelming. And also note that you have the 3 grass energy for 200. You really won't ever have 6 energy for the extra effect, but if you do, then that could be really, really good as well. But your trainers are also going to help you a lot. So you play 4 Faba. Choose a Pokemon tool or special energy card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon, or any stadium card in play, and put it into the Lost Zone. So if your opponent's playing a Zoroark deck, Zoroark decks play 4 DCE and then a couple basic energy depending on what their partner attacker is. You can Faba all 4 special energy away, and then they have to ride a speeding for either 2 basic energies, or they can't ride a speeding because they're out of all of their special energies. You could do this versus Mewtwo decks. They play Rainbows and Prisms. Again, just Faba away their energy every turn, and if you are item locking them and Fabaing their energy, and then for Power Plants locking their GX and EX abilities, eventually they're going to hopefully just start draw passing, or just using a very underwhelming attack that's not doing much. So between the item lock, the ability lock of Faba, and the the ability lock of Power Plant, and the energy denial of Faba, that is why your 150 heal or your GX attack for 200 will usually get you there, and you can win the game just by swinging for a moderate amount of damage every turn. For Steven's Resolve, search your deck for up to 3 cards and put them into your hand, then your turn ends is a good setup card. Steven is pretty good. Search your deck for a supporter card and a basic energy, so you can get like your basic energy that you need to attack, and then also a Faba for next turn. The 4 AZ, these are very good for if you want to like super growth with your active Rowlet, but then attach an energy to the benched one. So the active one takes a hit, you attach again to the bench one, the active one takes a hit, then you AZ it up. And that's kind of your way of healing in this deck. This list does not play any healing other than the AZ, but if you just play correctly and play smart and like intuitively, you don't think your opponent has a Guzma or whatnot, so you just want to chill behind an active egg around the active spot and then attach to the bench one, AZ it after it takes a couple hits, and you're good to go. AZ is also good if they try to lock up one of your Vileplumes or your Pidgeotto or something, or whatever it is, and you just AZ it, then start re-evolving it. Also, AZ is very good to get Virizion into the active spot when you need to go for your Breezeway-GX. I think the rest of the cards are pretty self-explanatory. The Brigette is good to get down like 2 Oddish and a Pidgey if you started with your egg. The Pokégears are so you can consistently get that turn 1 Brigette if you need it. The Cynthia Caitlin is a new addition, obviously, since it's from Cosmic Eclipse, and I thought this was a pretty good addition. It can both draw you a few cards, and it can get back a supporter card from your discard pile, and the Faba and the AZs can be really important in this deck, so getting like a 5th Faba, or just like you don't have any others in your hand, there's 2 in your deck, you can't draw into them, but you have a 5th out, which is Cynthia Caitlin, to just grab one for next turn. I think this card's pretty decent. It's not like amazing, but it's been pretty cool in my testing so far. So this is like the vanilla egg route deck for expanded, and then I have another one that I got a little more fancy with here. So the Pokemon line, I took out the 1/1 birds and I took out the 4th egg. I put in 2 Vileplume GX. It has the ability Fragrant Flower Garden. Once during your turn, you may heal 30 damage from each of your Pokemon. It also has Massive Bloom, which is 180, minus 10 for each damage counter on it, and then Allergic Explosion GX, which is 50, and the active is Burnt, Paralyze, and Poison. The attack is actually not too bad since we're running healing in this deck, and also, you know, Vileplume GX heals, so that's pretty good for the Massive Bloom staying around its maximum of 180. But the idea here is, if the Disgusting Pollen isn't your win condition, you've already gotten your Irritating Pollen into play, you can try to get 1 or 2 of these Vileplume GX into play, and you can heal your Rowlet, Alolan, Exeggutor for an extra 30 to 60 a turn, in addition to the 30 a turn from Calming Hurricane, that's 90. If you get Life Forest to stick, that's 150 a turn, you're healing the Rowlet, Alolan, Exeggutor. And then I also am playing a Gardenia, which heals 80 from something with a Grass Energy on it. And then the Pokemon Center Lady, which heals 60 and removes all special conditions from one of your Pokemon. And of course, I'm still playing the Cynthia Caitlin like in the other list, so you can get back the Gardenia or the Pokemon Center Lady for another use. The downside to playing the Vileplume GX is Power Plant shuts it off, and Power Plant was a big part of our strategy in the other Egg Route deck. So I'm playing a little bit of a weird stadium lineup here. 2 Silent Lab, and then 1 Power Plant, and then 1 Life Forest Prism. I'm not sure if this deck is optimal, but I did definitely want to try out the Vileplume GX just to see how it is. Both decks function pretty well. They're not too different in their functionality, except this one has more healing for the matchups where you're taking damage more often. But I do think if you had to go with either one right now, you would just be going with the vanilla build since it's proven to be good already. But I want to experiment more with Egg Route and see where we could go, especially with some new Cosmic Eclipse cards like the Vileplume GX and the Cynthia and Caitlin. I'll have the deck lists for both of the decks I showed in today's video in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.